everybody, and welcome back to Hartford. Let's take a quick trip to Bushnell Park in Hartford, Connecticut. First official public park in the United States of America.
Yeah, super cool. First, public park ever established, right? Obviously, we take parks almost for granted nowadays, like a mainstay, but it's interesting to think, there was a first one, right?
And this is it. Now then, on to business. We are currently in round number 4. Out of 1,247 duelists in attendance, only 160 are left undefeated.
Yep, we've had a few rounds so far. Some of them going by blistering fast, right? We've had a lot of blowouts, a few less grind games. We saw one game grind down a little bit with Mystic Mind, but that was really just grinding the top of your deck until you find a Cosmic Cyclone to beat it. But we have some exciting things still lined up.
Yeah, there's a lot of really interesting decks still out there. We've been looking through some of the decks that have been performing well. We've seen Punks, we've seen Agents, and we've seen plenty of Despia. And we're going to see a little more of that now in this match.
Yeah, definitely. We've talked about it a little bit. Despia, one of those decks where a lot of people consider it to be one of the best, right? You can make that argument very easily, but there's still a lot of different variants of it, different ways to play it. Whether that's the inclusion of a few more, particular small engines, or maybe you alter your spell line a little bit. We were talking about Lure Darkness here earlier, or even trap cards. There's tons of different ways to play the strategy.
And we're going to see another one of them in this round 4 match.
All right, and first up from our players, we have Christopher from Chicago, Illinois. Favorite card, Magispector Unicorn Kieran.
Really?
Ooh.
That's an interesting one. And going up against him, we've got Hunter L. from Boynton Beach, Florida. His favorite card, Mecha Phantom Beast Dracosack, an all-star in the Dragon Ruler format. One of the many older formats that you can play in a Time Wizard event if you so choose.
Yeah, that one was definitely a fan favorite for a long time, right? When people talk about older formats, hard to escape talking about Dragon Ruler. But we're going to have a good round this one. So both these duels are 3-0. Hunter will be playing a Despia deck. And we'll see exactly what Christopher has brought to the table on the other side.
There's really, you just don't know at this point. If you come in at the start, you're pretty confident, yeah, it's probably going to be Sword Salt. It's probably going to be, another Despia deck. But as we've seen so far, we've had, Labormancer, we've had Plunder Patrol, we've had Predaplants. But what's it going to be this time? Are we going to finally get the Despia branded mirror match?
Yeah, I think that's what most duels were preparing for, right, when you expect it. But then we see other things like that we saw with the Plunder Patrol match, right? You're playing against Dragon Link. There's a lot of decks you can still play, even when this deck is just operating on this I'm not going to say a different axis, but as popular as this deck is, the field's wide open. But I'd be excited to see a mirror match. It's definitely, a lot of people think of this deck as one of the more, skill-oriented, right? Very high skill cap in terms of what you can do, and you especially see those in mirror matches, right? Because there's a lot of, small interactions you can do, a lot of, making the maximum out of your cards to make sure you're always a little bit further ahead in terms of economy.
Yeah, well, maybe there are certain cards that you play specifically because you're expecting it, or you're trying to get an edge there, and maybe they don't really shine in those other matchups. Yep, it's funny to see a Dragon Link match after the new Albalenitus came out. I thought maybe that would scare people away from playing anything that had to put dragons on the field.
Yeah, I think Dragon Link is one of those decks that's really interesting where a lot of people who play Dragon Link don't stop, right? They're just looking for more dragon cards. They don't really care as much about the dragon hate.
All right, now it looks like we are about to be underway here in what is a Despia branded mirror match. Let's take a look. Okay. And it appears that Christopher is going to start us off. With Albion, the Shrouded Dragon. And I'll send a branded spell or trap card to the graveyard here. Okay. It's opening. After he gives us a quick shuffle and cut, Albion's going to go to the bottom of the deck, and Christopher will draw a new card. And up next,
Branded Fusion. Gets hit with Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring, so cutting Christopher off a little bit there, but still has a lot of gas in the tank. Albion, one of those cards that replaces itself immediately, right?
Yep. Yeah, it's only the second Ash I've seen all weekend so far. Jesse had one last round. This will be the second. Ooh, set one pass. Maybe a good play in 2010. Not so much now.
Yeah, not quite the classic T it once was, but still, we'll have to see.
You can't even line them up these days with all those Mech Knight duels prowling around.
Exactly. All right, Hunter's going to start things off on his side with, ooh.
Oh, okay.
A solid Allure of Darkness, right? Banshee to make sure that he can still maintain, not even maintain, right? He goes a little bit plus advantage.
Yep.
We were talking about Dragon Rules earlier. Sacred Swords of 7 stars, the first time I've ever banned something, brought 2 and get some more.
Exactly.
Still exists here today.
And Mercurier itself, like, in addition to that, it's also a negation you can play from your hand.
Yeah, a lot of upside with that card. We were talking about, like, reasons to play Allure of Darkness. Here's the big one, right? You get just a little bit of extra advantage. Ooh, and a second copy of Allure of Darkness.
How about 2? Let's go for 2.
This time I will be banishing the Spriggan's Kip.
Oh, there's Spriggan's Kip. Okay. Both of those new cards from the structure deck as well. Spriggan's Kip, we don't get to see it being summoned in this case, but it's another special summoning effect.
Over just the Despia, and activate the effect of response.
Well, Beluger's going to go through as well, adding a branded spell or trap.
I will go ahead and Despia, Theater of the Branded.
It's the Theater of the Branded. That's the field spell. Allows you to fusion summon.
Please make sure that your match stuff is being turned in and there is one single winner challenge match signatures.
Next up, we've got Branded Fusion. Let's see if Christopher can answer the Branded Fusion. He cannot. It's fine.
Yeah, he took a little peek at his hand there, and I was expecting something maybe, but...
Like maybe a dimensional barrier, something like that.
Yeah, it might be a little bit too hopeful, especially in game 1, but we'll see. So Hunter's going to go ahead, send down Tragedy of the Despia along with Fallen of Albaz.
And that'll make Rebellion.
Yep, the Searing Dragon.
Pitches a card, Forbidden Droplet. Orders the chain links so that Tragedy will resolve first. It's going to be careful with that. There has to be a legal fusion summon for you in the first place in order to activate it, but it's kind of hard for that not to be the case when you're summoning it with Branded Fusion. Or really in general.
Using Lady Fall of Albaz.
The things that Branded Fusion opens up is just ridiculous,
Yeah.
especially in something like this where you get yours negated by Ash and your opponent fires one off and you have nothing for it. Rough. Like tough beats.
Alright, and Mirror Jade hits the field. Mirror Jade's also a tough one. You can't leave it there and you can't get rid of it without losing your stuff. And you can't leave extra deck monsters out because Albaz might eat them up and turn into Mirror Jade.
And it goes back to the thing, there's a lot of like subtle lines you need to take, right? A lot of things that you need to be aware of like throughout the whole play, and it looks like he's going to go ahead and play that Theater of the Branded.
Who fuses away Mirror Jade and Ad Libitum for Masquerade. And then Ad Libitum special summons back Mirror Jade. Masquerade attacks in and destroys Fallen of Albaz. And the scariest thing about, the mirror match here is you might think that you could use Alba Lenitus to help you out here, but none of these are dragons. you're not getting anything out of this field. That's a worm. You got a worm and fairies.
Goes back to the whole like ice barrier problem, right? Where you think a lot of these things are dragons, but they're just not.
Ah, yes, my sea serpent, the dragon of the ice barrier.
Yeah. Or like Levier. There's a lot of like dragons that aren't quite dragons, but they sure look like it, right? It looks like Christopher is going to go ahead and activate Branded in red. Brings out a Lubellion of his own.
All right. So you can toss Edge and Chain for that. I believe that's his last card in hand, though.
That puts you down to 6,800.
And he's also hemorrhaging life points every time he plays a card or effect.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like a lot, right? 600 per card, but it adds up. It definitely adds up.
All right, so we've got his own Mirror Jade.
Okay.
And Edge and Chain activates. Go ahead and grab a Frightfur card out of the deck, and it'll be Frightfur Patchwork. There's one way to refill your hand quickly. That'd be it.
Yeah, it doesn't take much, right? Like one inherent problem with fusion like strategies that's always exist, right? It's 3 cards to do something, right? You need a fusion spell and 2 materials. Frightfur Patchwork fixes that problem very well.
Hunter flips Branded Opening. Resolves Pitching Fallon of Aldaz. And special summoning
Make a copy of the trade.
another copy of Despian Tragedy.
I will activate the effect of Mirror Jade, banishing for cost. Sending Albion's
Sends Albion to the graveyard to activate Mirror Jade's effect.
which monsters have declared attack? Just
Christopher.
what was the first one he declared attack with directly?
And this is still happening in Hunter's turn. We're still in the battle phase. Branded in red was activated there.
Yep.
So a Luber,
So then use this. Okay, so 3,000. I will change my Mirror Jade. Sure.
It looks like that's going to prompt Christopher to use his own Mirror Jade's effect.
and that's a perfect reflection of Mirror Jade's sending Albions from the extra deck to the graveyard. Presumably to banish each other.
That's fine. And then I shall banish this.
What a mirror match, huh?
Mirror match, Mirror Jade.
Check directly for
Yep.
18.
And he's managed to keep most of the damage off, though.
Down to 32.
Yeah, but still not a lot of resources left, right? He still has the Patchwork in hand. That's a single card.
Yep.
Set one card.
So not out of it, but
End phase.
it's rough.
Trigger.
You know, I'm not super sure how you're getting out of this one. It probably involves getting enough extra cards to go for Guardian Chimera. I don't know if you can get the materials for that here.
Also banishment.
Sets Branded Banishment. Very powerful card. I don't think we've seen it resolved yet, though.
Okay. Then we'll destroy these 2 monsters and then protect Branded.
Branded Opening keeps Masquerade on the field.
And then still in that phase, I'm going to activate my Albion.
Sure, no problem. Make another 6. Puts you down to 2,600.
He's going to go ahead and grab a Branded spell. There's Branded Fusion. All right, now things are looking a little better.
Yeah, if there's any cards that can open it up, right? Those 2. We look at the things like Shaddoll Fusion can do. Any of these cards that like fusion spell that sends materials from the deck and then triggers effects, right? A lot of free cards.
And he picks up what appeared to be Albion the Shrouded Dragon there. So it starts with Branded Fusion.
In response, Fountain Debarrier called Fusion.
Oh.
The look that Hunter just gave Christopher, it was everything to me. Yeah.
Uh-huh. You think you're going to fuse, huh? Okay.
Yeah, you talked about it a little bit earlier, right? Cards that you play for the mirror match.
Right.
Some main deck copies of Dimensional Barrier, solid option.
Absolutely.
Very solid option.
You know, and it's good against Sword Soul as well. So it's kind of, if you're covering the 2 most prevalent matchups, it seems like, an easy ad.
Yeah, I mean, you can call Ritual as well, right? So even like weird decks like Libromancer, not weird necessarily, but like
Or, Pendulum, if you run into the guy playing Pendulum. This monkey board
is back. Yeah, I have a lot of thoughts, but that's okay. Monkey Board is a powerful card. Those are my thoughts, man. I played a lot with Monkey Board in my time. Man, that card is good. But yeah, so Hunter taking a It's fairly clean game one, right? Really on the back, I think, of Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring, right? Stopping, like, basically capturing all that tempo in that first turn, cutting Christopher off from, like, a huge amount of resources. And then the main deck tech Dimensional Barrier, like, really sealing the deal, the nail in the coffin.
It's tough having to reveal that in game one, but, you got to slam the door shut.
I think it's fine because you expect it more in side games, right? So, like, at least game one, like, you're getting your full value out of it.
True.
Yeah, there's a lot of cards there that I think still could have ended it, right? But Dimensional Barrier really just being the one that was like, there's too much at that point to really handle.
It just hurts, seeing your own branded fusion negated, and then your opponent plays theirs, and you're like, oh, at least I got this other branded fusion, and that doesn't go through either.
I think one thing that's great about being back at live events, the bad beat stories.
Yep.
Right? Good bad beat story. Yeah, my opponent opened with Branded Fusion. He stopped mine with Ash Blossom, and then main deck game one, I thought I came back, but he had Dimensional Barrier.
And that was all, the first turn, too.
Yes.
And that's the other thing with the Allure, is that you can draw through to cards like that maybe you only play a couple of instead of the full three. So that's another advantage to having all those extra draw spells in there.
It's a big one, too. Definitely a powerful inclusion, but we'll see what our dual slate go. We got game two. You can expect some amount of side deck cards, maybe, or in like Hunter's case, maybe he just jammed all these side deck cards in his main deck. I feel like that's a fair move.
Yeah, if you already got the right cards, then you're fine.
Yeah.
How big of a power move would it be if you're just like, no, I'm ready.
I feel like if you look at some past formats, it was like that though. Like a good example we were talking about earlier, the Dragon Ruler mirror match. You didn't side deck much because most of your deck was already like, well, I knew that this is what I was here for, right? Or like even if you look back at like the teleport Dark Arm decks, right? Like as soon as they started main decking Oppression, it was just like, yep, nope, I'm not signing any cards. It's like, am I going first? That was the thing. Like first, maybe like you sign out Dust Shoot or something. But yep, but we'll head down in game two. That's when you really know like a deck is almost at its prime, right? You're really just main decking for the mirror, and that's it. And strong opening for Christopher and branded opening. Gonna go ahead and discard Edgimp Chain.
Despia. I will activate Albert the Justice Despia chain with one Edgimp chain too.
So we're still in the draw phase here.
Yeah, as you mentioned, they'll get a little bit more clever. Gonna get a Luber and effectively like chain block it, right? With the Edge of Chain. Grab two of the most powerful spells he could. Viper Patchwork alongside Branded Fusion.
Oh, and he's also got Albion in there. That's actually a pretty good looking hand.
Yeah, and a Branded in red. Solid stuff.
So I think you fire off the Patchwork first.
It's chain quality. Okay.
You grab the Edge and Chain and Polymerization Classic. It's not the swirly version. It's the TV show version.
Both a little swirly.
Both
a little swirly. One maybe a little swirlier than the other, but yeah. I'm going to follow that with Albion. Kick down a card. See what he chooses. Do the Fallen Valdez before he puts it to the bottom, draws another card. As you mentioned, putting it to the bottom effectively almost like no chance of seeing it anytime soon unless you're shuffling again. But this deck does do a lot of shuffling.
It's true. And he comes up with another Fallen of Valdez. All right. Activating Branded Fusion. We're going to drop... He's found his Despia in there, the Tragedy. And Aldaz.
Okay.
So that's all three copies of it that are now kind of in play.
Yeah.
Okay.
Then I would activate Blue Valley and Searing Dragon as Chain Link 1.
Thinking really hard about his discard here.
Discarding Old Libra for cost, and then Pod does me tracking champions.
You're good. Base your graveyard.
All right, so we're resolving Tragedy first.
So we're currently
Doesn't look like Hunter has any way to stop him this time around. Christopher grabs Ad Libitum,
Yes.
and then Fallen of Albaz along with Blue Bellion will be fused together into Mirror Jade. Now, have you been seeing a lot of Lightning Storm lately?
No, actually, like in most of, well, at least most of the deck lists I've seen for this tournament, no. I feel like evenly matched is definitely more popular. We talked about that card earlier. I think Raigeki also being at 3. I've seen a couple Raigekis, which was surprising to me, right? Because I think Lightning Storm is an incredible card, right? Yeah. 2 modes. Anything with multiple modes means you probably get more value out of it at a side deck card. But yeah, no, surprisingly, not as much. Still a solid number like Dark Ruler No Mores, similar card sort of. Does something at least like blanks, but
I still notice a lot of players playing around it and putting all their stuff in defense position as they summon it.
I think it's one of those things where, like, if you can, you might as well, right? The same reason why we see maybe the no more T sets,
yeah.
right? Stuff like that. No reason not to. That's a lot. That's also, we talked about things that are like signature to like Yu-Gi-Oh! DNA. It's that. It's like playing around literally anything, because anything could be there, right? There's all these options. Cards don't go away, right?
It's just a lot of small things. Like, you form these habits because you lose due to them once.
Yes.
Like, you get beat by the one Mech Knight player one time, and you never put 2 cards in the same column ever again.
It's fun, though, because it's like, oh, you got me, but never again. Never again.
We will adapt.
Yeah, exactly. And then we were talking about Draco Sack earlier. That was a big thing. Draco Sack in attack mode, I remember, like, if I maxi, but they have Forbidden Chalice and Colossal Putter, I lose. It's like, I'm never putting Draco Sack in attack mode ever again. That was like bread and butter Dragon Ruler. It's like ridiculous things like that, right? Like, you lose to them once, and you're just like, I never want this to ever happen to me again.
It's always at the worst possible time, too.
Yes, yes. Ooh.
Speaking of...
An extra shining one, too. So he's going to go... Hunter's going to go ahead and slap down Mystic Mine. Christopher might have a response, though. He's considering some options. See exactly what those are. 2 cards set, 2 cards in hand. 2 of his fusions in defense mode.
I believe we saw one of those. I thought it was a branded banishment.
Mm-hmm. Stand by, please.
Now, notably, Mystic Mine, it only can't activate monster effects if he has something down there like Masquerade, for instance. That'll still cause a life point differential. As you can see right there, Hunter's down to 7,400. So it's a bit of a dangerous game to play there, if you're going to give yourself a deficit and then stall everything out.
Yeah. I think it's also, if we're talking about time, right, especially in like a game 3, I think in this situation, not too bad, right, because you're likely going to just break open your own mind eventually. Especially like with Mind Up, like how many cards are you actually trying to play sometimes? But definitely important to note. Interesting interaction as well.
So in this case, he would be replacing that with the Theater of the Branded.
Seven here.
I have 6.
Pass it back and forth. Christopher's up to 6 cards in hand.
I saw both players think he might have 7. At one point, Chris thought he had 7. It was like, oh, no, I have 6. And then Hunter's like, are you sure it's not 7?
Stand by.
And just progress through his phases. It looked like, are we going to see an activation or maybe a set? It looks like Brandon in red.
Yeah, that's a good thing to have around. If your opponent is going to crack the mine, you want to have that ready to drop a Chimera on them for whatever they're up to. Maybe one more monster there, unless you're just going to fuse both of your on-field monsters for it. We are filling up the zones.
Brandon opening for Christopher.
So that's going to resolve. Branded opening.
Ditches the 3rd copy of Fallen of Valdez.
Summon Despia Trinity.
Yes.
can have a pass.
It looks like just to free up the zone, though.
Pass turn.
So yeah, something of note. He did mention, said he was discarding for cost, but branded opening doesn't have a cost. You discard as part of the effect. So that's something that you should be clarifying on, because you don't want to just throw away a card and have your opponent use Ash Blossom and not know that you weren't supposed to.
Interesting discard there for Hunter, Allure of Darkness. That would make me think that maybe he's trying to drag this
Like
into...
actually drag it out?
Yeah. Right? Because, like, it's hard to discard an Allure. It's hard to discard that card.
The dragging out, though, like, I still have yet to see it work in one of these matches.
You're not wrong. But he's full committing now with a second discard for another copy of Allure of Darkness.
Has he finally... Like, maybe he just caught an opponent that doesn't have an out to it.
This position feels eerily similar to what we saw with the Libromancer player as well, though, where it's like, up a game, like, maybe just heat check it.
Yep.
If I can get it for free, why not, Make my life a little bit easier. You got 11 rounds to play through, you only have so much brain power, right? So if you can take one round where you're just kind of chilling in the back of mind, you take those.
Let's take the game off.
Yeah.
And they continue to draw. I do wonder, like, does Christopher have something that does it?
Like, do you expect to see spell and trap card removal in the Despia mirror often?
Probably not.
Right?
Probably not. Unless you see the theater and you want to blow that up. I don't know. I just feel like I just can't not play at least one card. Like, even if it's just Duster, I gotta have something in there that can destroy a spell or trap.
Yeah.
I can check this right now.
That's that whole, like, mental meta sub-game, though, of, like, do they have it? Do I even consider doing this, right? Because there's going to be games where you draw that card, and it's just, like, not, especially in a side-decked game, right? But maybe in a side-deck game, you can think about it as, like, oh, maybe it's an early way to bait, like, a dimensional barrier, right? It's not the worst card. And you do expect to see more of those, like, types of cards, I think, out of side-deck games as well, especially in a mirror match. Like, when we talk about, like, mirrors in formats that get a little bit more, like, developed and refined, it's always, like, oh, they're suddenly playing this continuous trap card in the mirror, and it sort of blow things out. We were talking about Royal Oppression earlier, right? You can look at, like, Vanity's Emptiness, like Soul Drain, Skill Drain, all those other cards. So it's probably worthwhile for those corner cases, and especially this, right? Just knowing that it could happen, it's just like your deck's 39 cards and a Cosmic Cyclone every time you build it, or whatever, right? Or your case, 39 cards and a Feather Duster, yeah.
Basics.
All right.
Ooh.
We got a little bit of action. We got the Looper here on Hunter's side. Let's see what he does here.
Over is
Yeah, presumably you just let that happen. And we note... Oh yeah, I almost missed that Despian over there in the corner. He does have 3 monsters on the field, so he could use 2 and still leave up one of the fusions. And during that period of time, he had...
Sit one and 560. Yes.
He had pitched polymerization as well. So if we get an eventual Guardian Chimera, it will be protected.
Yes.
And yeah, Christopher has to have something he could do here. I think he would have conceded at this point otherwise, because this game has gone 13 minutes now.
Oh, Christopher conceded similar to what you said before, though, right? He's just out.
Yeah.
Yeah. They've already had their lunch break. He's well fed.
Oh, is that Fairy Tale Snow?
It looks like it.
That's interesting. That'd be a fairly good discard. There it is.
A very good discard.
Very. All right, Hunter's going to pay. Flip. Branded lost.
5,600.
correct. And I have like
Okay.
Brandon lost a fucking
Bluebird.
They respond to a branded banishment.
Interesting.
He was setting this up a little bit last turn, right? Otherwise, you wouldn't have just summoned a Lure and then sent to the graveyard with droplets.
We'll go ahead and fuse.
So if Christopher doesn't have it out, do you think he's watching this like, yes,
These two.
like break it, do something?
So both monsters.
Trigger lost, can they come?
Yeah, so the craziest thing about branded banishment is that you don't have to use the monster that you summon back for the fusion. Most effects like this, you do. But this one, you don't. So you can just take both fusions and make Dragostapelia. And now Hunter has more monsters here.
I sighted on all my targets. Yeah, it's just for this.
Alright, so it appears that he tried to activate the effect of Branded Lost there, but forgot that he had sighted out all of his stuff. And take a warning for that. And he finally eliminates the Mystic Mind, setting, presumably, the Theater of the Branded.
So Hunter must have just known what he was like, sort of what kind of game state he was trying to set up the whole time, right? Didn't need to rush it with copies of Lure of Darkness.
I will activate Brandon and Red. Targeting and with it.
Alright.
Ooh.
Chains of Crow. Let's take out Ad Libitum, which will also stop the fusion.
Oh, chain banishment.
Unless
Targeting that.
Crow 2.
Electric Boogaloo. The interesting thing about cards like DD Crow and Effect Veiler, right, when you compare it to the newer hand effects, you can use as many copies as you want in a turn, which is usually a big advantage in scenarios like this.
Yep. And just like... Yep, just like Branded in Red, if you don't summon the monster with Branded Banishment, you do not get to fuse.
Ooh, now a branded fusion for Hunter.
This one, I think, is going to go through.
I wouldn't really worry about this, though. I feel like now Hunter's kind of in the driver's seat, right? The big thing is that Christopher does have
And,
a large hand.
I take
right?
that back. That's not going to go through. Hunter flips cross out Designator.
Sweet card. Sweet card. Ooh. Talk about cards for the mirror match. Ooh.
And you know he plays it because he used it on you in the first game. Oh boy, wow.
Yeah, I didn't even know this when I was looking at that. He main decks a full set of cross out
Cross-out
decks.
decks.
Yeah. Oh.
Really good in mirror matches.
I will activate the Lubion 10-1, discarding opening for cost, turning 2, trash.
So a lot of time people talk about like building your deck to do certain things, and the common thing that I always hear about is like you can build a deck to top an event or build a deck to win an event.
Yep.
This is a deck that's built to win an event.
Yep.
This is a deck where once you enter top cut and you know the majority of the field is likely going to be mirrors, you have that advantage game won every time, and that gives me the chills a little bit. Like it's a cool version of the deck to play for sure.
Yeah, that's one of the things I like so much about Yu-Gi-Oh! And like high competition in Yu-Gi-Oh! Is when people do that, and you can tell who really wants it, and who's just trying to get a top on their record.
Yeah. And it goes back to the whole thing where, like, building your deck so it's more mirror match oriented usually means you're losing points in the other things, right? But what you're really relying on is, like, the core of what your, like, Despia branded deck does is at least solid against the rogue, and that the rest of it is just how you pilot it, right? And you can take a few, like, minus cards like Dimensional Barrier, Cross Out Designator, and just hope the corner cases come up.
And that's the part where VIPs have a big advantage because they don't have to play those first 2 rounds, or you run into a lot of the stuff that could just give you an early loss on the record because you weren't expecting it, or your deck just doesn't line up well against it.
Yeah, I mean, that's the big trifecta of being a VIP, right? 1, 2 buys. 2, you get to build your deck for more of the mirror match. 3, unmentioned one, breakfast.
Yep.
All important. Key to tournament success. And then Hunter's going to move on to battle phase now. Unhindered by Mystic Mine. Solid looking field. You're going to declare an attack on the Despian Tragedy.
Okay. Yes.
Now, in Christopher's favor, he's still got his full complement of life points. He's still at 8,000.
Yeah, Hunter had to get through a little bit because of the opposing fusion monster. Just taxing him for 600 every time. The Masquerade.
And Masquerade can come back, can it not?
I believe so.
This is another fusion. I always forget if it's either player has it or if you have one. Yeah. Yeah, if your opponent controls a Ritual Fusion, Synchro, Xyz, or Link monster. Oh, but it's not in the graveyard. It was banished. Branded banishment. Oh. Mm-hmm.
Another powerful one. And as we talked about before, Chris's hand's still large, right? 6 cards going down to 5. Going to probably. Is
Do
it
you
going to
think
be?
he plays the 3 material one, the Proskenian?
No, I think it's going to be the 2. I think it's going to be. I think I see it the Venom one. We'll see though.
Ah, Starving Venom.
Yeah.
Starving Venom, okay. 2 dark monsters on the field.
Oh, it doesn't look like it though.
It's Regostapelia after all.
Resolution. Trigger Bear Jade.
Irrigate is fine.
No, Mirror Jade activates, is sent to the graveyard.
Interesting, right?
It's a very complex turn. Like, a lot of stuff has been going on in just this one turn. Very back and forth.
A lot of small interactions too. That's what I was talking about. Where a lot of people do feel like this deck takes a lot of skill to pilot, right? Very high skill cap, and it especially shows through in that mirror match.
So Christopher, he's still full up on life points. He didn't take any attacks.
Time ticked down a bit too.
It
Under that
did.
Mystic Mine, yeah. Now it's something you need to be conscious of. Now it's definitely something you're going to close to 10 minutes left. Game 2,
He's going to banish.
branded opening.
All right, so Dragostapelia lives.
It looks like he finds a dimensional barrier on top too. Way to stay in the driver's seat.
Now, what are the odds it gets crossed out twice? Probably a lot higher after all those turns of the Mystic Mine.
Definitely.
I'll expect something to spring expansion.
All right, so we got a special summon for Kit. Spriggan's Kit activates.
We will target.
And grab back a branded card.
Okay.
It'll be branded in red. And then you got to return a card to, I believe, the bottom.
I'll return.
Looks like he's considering that Fallen Malvez has branded fusion in hand.
Burn the Jester Despia.
All right,
This back.
now we got Maluber. Maluber activates. Maluber's going to make it. Not too many cards left in there, but one of them is branded loss, and he adds it to his hand.
Yes.
That's going to protect his fusion effect, a branded fusion.
King Poppy.
Oh, You're going to chain branded in red to that?
Sorry? Correct. It's not part of it.
Does that still work? Is it still under...
Target ball and the ball does.
It's hard to remember, but... End of this turn. Okay.
Blizzard as the final card in the
There it is. The Blizzard. If you've played Rivalry of Warlords and gotten the Magistus deck, you'll know about this card.
But you return to his
If not, Blizzard is a spell that negates other spells.
So that goes to my hand.
Sure.
Now, your opponent gets them back to their hand, but anytime you activate a card with that same name for the whole turn, it'll get negated. So even if it's something that doesn't have a once per turn on it, you negate it once with Blizzard, and it'll get negated every time they try to play it that turn. It'll keep going back, so it's just wasting time, but that's Blizzard, all right. Blizzard's a great card.
And in a mirror match with powerful quick play spells, right? Especially when the crossout designator in it,
Yep.
that card seems sweet, super sweet.
Still in battle phase, I want to activate.
And it's another one from Rise of the Duelist.
Yeah.
Oh, here we go. We got an activation of Snow. Remember, he discarded Snow ages ago under Mystic Mine. And that's one of the things. You build up a lot of cards in the graveyard when you're discarding your hand size limit all the time.
That puts you to 40-50.
30 bucks. Let's be the 16.
All right, so Dimensional Barrier is going to keep that dragon or the plant at bay.
650.
Make phase 2.
Yes.
I will activate Despia and Trinity, targeting my planet management.
Sure. Going to get banishment back. And for all of the depth repose from Hunter, it does look like Christopher has taken a huge foothold in the duel.
Definitely, this is all. We also saw him draw the dimensional barrier for turn.
Yep.
Right, so we know that's set.
Makers.
Oh,
It's a second Mystic Mine. It's a second Mystic Mine.
Hunter went through a lot of cards though, and he's very low on life. Like incredibly low on life.
And just like a random burn damage effect could do him in at this point. Most of those go for at least 8. But at this point, I think all Hunter can really do is try to wait it out.
Yeah, that's also a good point, right? Other than Mystic Mind, what other card could have really brought him out of that situation?
That's basically it.
Yeah.
Maybe like super polymerization if you could take this entire field.
Even that, though, it feels like he has a lot of cards in his graveyard. There's a lot of other cards set, right?
Like the snow kind of makes that irrelevant.
Yeah.
I will pass that. I will pass it.
Both the lists being good so far, too, about pace of play. Like,
Yep.
Yeah.
I will activate management. Targeting Albion the Shining Dragon.
Sure. Goes and picks up Albion. And then is he going to fuse? Looks like yes. Sprinkin's Kit, Aluber, and Edge Imp Chain.
Gonna give him a Chimera. Yep.
Chimera can't activate,
I will pass it.
but it is protected.
Go. 6. I'll pass.
Looks like Christopher, at least like 3 or 4 cards left, right? Maybe a couple more, but bare minimum 3 or 4. Hunter looks like more than that.
Probably thinking about, can he get any more cards back into his deck? I don't think he can, because even using the Albion,
It doesn't.
it
do
doesn't
anything.
change.
Yeah.
Doesn't change the numbers.
Albion just strictly makes it worse, right? Yeah.
Yep.
So faster.
Hunter is even looking at his cards at this point.
I think he's locked in on this. I'm just trying to deck you, right?
Yep, that's all that's left. So, like, if you just have one Mystic Mine in your deck, this wasn't going to work. It appears he sided in another.
Strong dragon. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, talk about decks built for the mirror. Good mirror match plans, right? This is a master's course in it.
Draws his last card. It is not a removal. And that's it. A win via deck out.
We saw it. We saw it finally.
Hunter sides in the second Mystic Mine.
Cool thing about Hunter's deck too, like if you're expecting Mystic Mine in the mirror in any capacity, Blizzard another card that like can kind of deal with it. But yeah, a lot of strong play, right? Strong play, good tech choices. Nothing bad to say about Christopher at all. Christopher played that expertly well, and Hunter's deck is just designed for this, right? And that's what we saw.
It's really fascinating seeing like Blizzard. I was really excited for, because that was the card. You know, when it was first coming out, there was like, yeah, I'm sure people are going to love Blizzard, and then it just never really took off.
Definitely a unique one, like quick plays that beat quick plays. Definitely something I'm a fan of. But looks like we're going to cut to a quick commercial break. We'll be back to talk with Hunter about his deck in a few moments, so make sure to stay tuned.
I tried to play through this, but I didn't want to just like compare and just but that's just my